Oh, yeah, please, man.
All right, good morning. I want to welcome y'all to our May 30th meeting. I thank you for taking time to come out and be part of our government. We had a great day yesterday for Memorial Day. Wonderful turnout here in town and recognizing our veterans. But anyhow, we need to get on with business, so I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask our attorney, Craig Slay, if he would pray for us.
Let's pray. Lord God, we bow now before you, acknowledging that we need you to be with us today. We need your power and your presence. Father, we need the peace that passes all understanding. Father, give us wisdom and discernment. Everything that we need today to make good and wise decisions, we ask for that today. Thank you, Lord, for these men, their willingness to step forward, to serve their community, to do that, Lord, using the skills and the abilities that you've given to them and blessed them with. I pray, Father, that they will use those skills and abilities today in a way that pleases you, Father, in a way that helps our community. Thank you that we can participate together in our government. Thank you for giving us this forum. Help us never to take that for granted, Lord. Thank you for our first responders, Lord, and for the men and women who serve us so faithfully in the military. Father, our hearts are blessed by their sacrifice. Our lives are blessed by their sacrifice. Lord God, bless their families. I pray, Father, that those who are serving us today, even keeping us safe, would be brought home safely with their families in Christ's name again.
Amen. All right, we have quite a few people visiting here to listen or talk. So I'd like to go to our public comment section instead of you people sitting and waiting throughout the meeting. Craig, you would help me here. We have one on public comments under 5, and I'd say let's handle that one first. I do not see Miss Kimberly Devine present. Okay, I see you now. Do you have something to speak on, Ms. Devine?
Well, I do, and I think the
You need to
board.
come forward, please. You need to come forward.
I will. I certainly will.
Thank you.
Just
Are you gentlemen?
fine.
Okay. Yes, and I'm not sure if this actually falls under the public comment again, because you know I've been before
Right.
you all before, and I'm here again, and thank you for that prayer. That was a lovely prayer, because I do believe God uses authority, and I'm looking at every one of you gentlemen, and we all live together in this community. And when I first came to you with my problem or concern, because this is where it starts, this is where it will end too, because I'm sure that you all are well aware that, you know, you all exude more power over our lives than the President of the United States or anything else. You know, public, local officials, you know, dictate how we live. And I brought to you the concern regarding, I had a problem trying to get my lights connected to my home. This has been almost 3 years ongoing now. And I followed every procedure in good faith. As you may have been aware of, I had a problem initially with the septic tank install. Now the septic tank is installed there. I'm dealing with a what I consider non-reputable installer as to the fact that he refused to turn in my paperwork for the release of power after the install. And so I've been dealing with this with the health department, going back and forth, because I first came to you all because we don't have any type of exemption or any type of any kind of administrative remedy coming from this board who set up the zoning ordinances in the first place. As Mr. Gaines is well aware, it took me 30 minutes to get here without traffic. So I understand that you all have zoned and you all are doing this for the improvement of our community. And by the way, it's beautiful and it's lovely, and I think we live in one of the best places that you could live in the country right now. But I do, like I said, there's no exemption whatsoever for this county. I have more than 2 acres, which what I'm told by the health department is that the 2 acres exemption fits the data, the scientific data that is necessary to make sure that there's no public safety issue. Okay, so it would not be an issue at all if I wasn't in this county or we didn't have the specific zoning ordinance, which honestly, I just don't feel like applies because my property exceeds that. But I don't even want to get into the zoning thing. I want you all to do your job, and perhaps if government works the way it's supposed to, you will review those policies and how it affects, people's lives in the long term or whatever. So I even offered what I thought maybe would be a common sense compromise, like if I could get a porta potty or something out there, because what has happened, this has lingered on. You don't have reputable installers. I had a big conflict with the health department, and I'm not sure, like I said, where this will go, and I don't even want it shouldn't have to go that far, but there's a lot of things going on over there that should not be going on, and because we have this discussed, no exemption, no remedy in place, you give these people like extreme power over our lives. They can just hold your lights ransom or, a hostage forever over something that doesn't even have to do with light.
Miss Kimberly,
Yes.
excuse me. Is your sewer hooked up?
It's hooked up, okay, but I don't have the installer would not release the paperwork.
Did you
for
pay the
that.
installer?
Okay, no,
Well, that's probably why you don't have the
Okay, well, I'm
paperwork.
telling you right now, because if you listened to me before I came up here before, okay, I've gone through the procedure trying to get this installer to do, because first of all, I shouldn't have to pay.
He's not gonna send you the paperwork to the
No,
health
sir,
department
it
until
was
you
not
pay for it.
installed correctly. Okay, first of all, it wasn't installed to the specifications.
Well, why don't
So
you take
really-
him to court and get it
Who
resolved
said it
through the
wasn't installed
court?
incorrect?
Okay, well, actually,
Now, who, the health department?
okay, yeah, this is back to the health department, which I'm
Who
trying.
said it wasn't installed?
Okay, this was Jim Richardson at the health department at the time, who was
Okay,
over.
he said it wasn't installed properly.
Yes, but he had never even been to my property, didn't know what was installed. And I attempted on several occasions to get someone out there to finish the install or to repair it. He denied any access, he denied access to my property to make the repairs. I had 3 different people come from far regions of the state to repair this, and as soon as they tried to get the clearance from the health department to do this, it's like he would not allow them to do this. So this took, as you're speaking of remedy and going to court or whatever, that might seem great, but do you know how long that takes and how much
Well,
of that of
that's
your
been
life?
3 years ago. I mean, you could already.
Yes,
have this
because I was
resolved.
still going through the health department and still coming before this board and still thinking that there could be some common sense negotiation to it, or at least some kind of, like, even if it wasn't a total exemption.
If
just
your
some kind of-
sewer's not gonna be, if it's not gonna be hooked up and functional, we can't release power.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
That's the bottom line.
with the
That's
health
not us.
department, that's not us.
you said what?
That's the health department, not us.
Yes, I see, and the health department told me it was you, not them, and that's why we were supposed to have somebody. They said they couldn't, they said they would, under normal circumstances, be able to issue an exemption because it's more than 2 acres, but because of the zoning in this county, which the board has set up, that they're not able to do that. And I actually have there's no public safety risk whatsoever. My property exceeds any kind of scientific data of the space that you need for a single-family residential home.
Let me ask you this, is it because, have you got a sprinkler system hooked up? Is that what type of?
She doesn't have
Yeah,
anything hooked up.
yeah,
to it.
yes, I mean, well, it is hooked up. I don't have the electrical panel and everything he ripped out of there that operates it. So yes, the whole system is intact, it's contained, it's intact. I'm on more than 2 acres, and so I just don't understand why.
What's the health department saying?
The health department is saying if you would allow it, then they could do it, but they said they
We
cannot
would allow
issue.
what? What we allow?
They said there's no exemptions or exceptions whatsoever allowed. in this.
Don't we have a representative with the health department here?
Mr. President, if we may, I would like for Ms. Hogue with the Health Department to step forward and actually speak on behalf of the Health Department and
Let's
give you
just
the.
one at a time.
Well, hang
Yep.
on, Mr. Devine, you have anything else to add?
Well, except for the fact that that's what she said, and so I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And there is no, like coming before this board, you already know, there's no administrative remedy set in place, no process, no form, no planning, how do you go about this? And I feel like everybody in here who's supposed to be, like serving us, like you're supposed to be serving us. It's like everything in here is about controlling and telling you, denying you what you can't have instead of telling you, okay, this is how, we can work with this and get it done. because I don't think anybody in here would want to be living on their property, paying taxes, paying mortgage, paying everything. You can't even upkeep your property properly without having electrical service, let alone, care for yourself or anything else. And I've been in the home, because where else are you supposed to go paying mortgage and taxes, like as high as it is this day. So even the health department, even on that end, like where they would normally be able to have some type of temporary exemption in another case, they said they cannot do it specifically because of this county.
All right, well, let's hear from the health
Let's see what the
department.
health department says.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Vine.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Health Department, will you explain to me the step, and our attorney, when a person comes in and puts in an application for a house or trailer or any living quarters, our community development office addresses that application, and the sewer, whatever type it may be, goes through the health department. Y'all do the inspections and the recommendations as far as what type sewer, how much sewer, whatever. And when you are satisfied, then you give it a pass or fail or whatever. And that is what triggers offices to even our electric people that supply electricity, says, okay, that part is that correct? Do I understand that right?
Yes, sir. The way it works, and in Rankin County, y'all are very careful. Before someone starts a house, you make sure they have enough room to have a wastewater system. The worst thing in the world is to build a house on 1/3 of an acre and not be able to have a wastewater system at the end of the process. So being as proactive as the county is, we appreciate that. So before they can get a permit to build a house or to move a mobile home in, they have to come to the health department and file a notice of intent. I intend to build a house. We come out and we design a wastewater system or systems. And we give a form that has the system designs on the form.
Who is that for? That's for the homeowner.
That's for the
not us.
homeowner. That's for the homeowner.
Yeah.
The homeowner also needs that in order to get their water turned on. The Water Association by law has to know that they have a plan to dispose of the dirty water before they give them clean water. They also bring a copy to the permit department to show that they have a way to do their wastewater. So routinely, when those systems are installed, the licensed installer calls for an inspection. In this particular case, the original notice of intent was filed on 5/14 of 2020. And in May of 2020, Kevin Jackson was to put the system down. Now, he called for a final inspection, and then I think he and Ms. Devine had a conflict, and he did not ever finish the system. The system that Ms. Devine has installed now is a very large tank with a aerator and a control panel. This tank could be made into a treatment plant. The intent was that she have the treatment plant in the spray system, like you asked about. So she doesn't have a control panel. She doesn't have an aerator in the big tank, and she doesn't have a spray pump in the spray tank. So basically what she has is a septic tank with a straight discharge, when she uses water at the house. Now, she said she's living in the house just a few minutes ago.
Right.
So that means she's generating wastewater. She alluded to the 2-acre exemption. The 2-acre exemption is something in the law, it's a little loophole, that if you pay cash for your house, you don't have a county ordinance, you don't want a wastewater system, you don't want to pay for what the health department recommends, you can get an installer to sign off on an affidavit saying, I didn't want to put in what you said, but I put in this, and it doesn't get off the property, and it doesn't get into waters of the state, and it's not going into a pond. We will accept that if the installer signs off on it. But if it doesn't work, and obviously what I understand she has is not an approved system, and it's not a working system. It's just a way to distribute her waste on the ground. Then the homeowner would be responsible, even with the 2-acre exemption. If she can get an installer to sign off on it. In Rankin County, we don't do that because y'all are very proactive and very careful. You make sure you have a final approval before the lights are turned on.
Could the state fine her if she's,
If she is
You-
living in the home, and if we go out and there is wastewater or water at all on the ground, then our method of action would be to take her through justice court. And it was a criminal charge, and hopefully, when we file the affidavit, unfortunately, they'll go pick her up. Sometimes they'll let her spend the night in jail, sometimes they won't. And then the judge would have to rule, was she violating the law or not violating the
well,
law?
her best option is either get somebody out there, do away with that system and pay somebody to put in a new system, or fix the system that she's already got there, or go to justice court.
Unfortunately, the system she has there aren't a whole lot of people that work on them. Now, if she can find someone, she and Kevin Jackson don't get along, and so I understand her not wanting him on her property. So if she can find somebody that can, and she said that the people that came in, we said they couldn't work on the plant. The reason for that being, remember, there used to be a Ford mechanic and a Chevy mechanic, and never the two shall cross. Well, with treatment plants, you have to be certified to work on that particular brand of treatment plant. You have to have been to class and been trained and all that. So if she can find someone who can work on the tank that's there already, and they'll bring the aerator, and they'll bring the pump tank, and they'll put the panel box on, she can do that. That's probably not gonna happen, because, there's some camaraderie between installers. The other thing she can do, on 10/15 of 22, her first recommendation expired. They're good for 2 years. 10/15 of 22, Trey Gunn went out and made recommendations for exactly the same system. And that recommendation would be good through 10/15 of 24. She can hire anybody in the whole state of Mississippi that has a license to install treatment plants. And they can just start again.
Yeah.
And that was what we originally thought she was planning to do. But she's welcome to do that.
Okay, and that is originally what
Ma'am.
I did.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hogue, let me ask this question. You mentioned that the 2-acre exemption has some conditions to it before you qualify for the exemption, and one you mentioned was you pay cash for the property. Well, Ms. Devine has a mortgage on this property. She wouldn't be eligible for any exemption, notwithstanding the fact that Rankin County doesn't allow for that. Is that correct?
Probably not. That's
Okay.
gonna be up to the mortgage company, but probably not.
Understood. All right.
So, I have a question. You were saying that basically she has a septic tank now. Does the health department not approve those any longer?
When a septic tank is one of the recommendations for your system, that's why we you've seen us dig the holes with those big long augers and stuff. We dig the hole to determine if a septic tank and field line would work, or if you've got soils, and unfortunately Rankin County has pretty bad soil.
Yeah.
If you've got soils that have any kind of water problem in the first 3 feet, a field line wouldn't work. What she's got now is just basically a big tank that catches the paper and the poo, and the germs run out on top of the ground if it's full.
Okay.
It's not even
It's not even a septic tank at this
it's-
point.
It's
It's
just got a
And
tank.
it would have to be followed up by a field line, the
Right.
gravel in the ground
Right.
and the
Yeah.
pipes in the ground. And you would have to have, the soil test would have to show that would be a system that would
But
work.
that was inadequate though.
Is
So
that
she's
an
asked
option?
to do a treatment system.
Is that an option with this tank? I don't know how it's made, but I mean, if it was able to have a fill line.
It's
with-
not.
It's not,
The soil conditions, we've had 2
so
different
your soil
inspectors.
conditions won't allow
The
that.
soil
Okay.
conditions, they're horrible.
Yeah, you've answered.
They're
my question.
horrible. That's why the reservoir's so pretty.
Well,
It holds the water.
Yeah.
for Ms. Devine and Ms. Lawrence, this office, y'all's business is really outside of this door, isn't it? Until you are satisfied and y'all say mission accomplished, we don't have anything that we can add other than do your job and her comply. So to continue doing this meeting every few months, I don't think we're accomplishing anything, and Ms. Devine is just being y'all aren't putting her off, but I think until she understands, or y'all have an understanding, and I understand where you're at, it's black and white. You have a set of rules that you gotta go by. We're not, anyhow, I think we've done all we can do.
Short of filing a complaint on her and let us go out and see if she needs to go to jail. I
You
mean,
can do that, because I would gladly be arrested.
Just a minute, just a minute. We're gonna let-
and I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna be.
What just the bottom line is, that's the simplest solution for her,
To pay somebody to put the
just,
correct.
is
To
to
hire
take
a-
this one out, if she can't get, if she's not gonna let the guy that put it in, he's not gonna let him back out there to fix it, then the only answer she has is start over again and put a whole new system in for someone else.
That would probably be the simplest way to resolve this situation.
But it
She's
sounds
not
like
out
he-
any money because she didn't,
And I
the
did
first
that.
one wasn't paid for. That's
I did
far-
that, and I came before this board because you all helped me find someone else to do that. And we've had such bad weather, and the soil is so locked, that they told me, and then they got so behind in it, that it already took 6 months from last year coming in here. And then they were saying like it might be 6 more months to a year. So like, I don't know if that's their personal discrimination, or if they're just saying that, oh, they don't wanna do it, or whatever. So I did that. I had someone hired and everything else. So you're telling me that I still should have to wait? And my tank is not just a tank sitting there. I treat it with a rodent, just like how a developer would do. They were sitting there and they were building, and they didn't have the air
Well,
working.
Ms. Hope, I think you've given us all the information we need. We appreciate you coming.
And when you said that
I
you
think-
had someone
yeah,
come
no.
out to repair,
We know
you
where
don't
we
tell
need
the
to
whole
go.
truth right here. It's like, he had someone, he did not come out, he did not know what kind of system I had.
Correct.
I have Cajun Air, which is one of the.
All right, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
And he
Paul,
denied the person
she needs to
on
go.
my property because he said I had another. he
Mr.
said I
President,
had
it's
another
time to
kind of
move
system.
on to the planning
Okay,
commission
fine.
meeting.
Would you like to
Yeah.
arrest me here? Because
Yeah.
he said
Yes.
that I had a different type of system, which I did not
We would like
have.
for
Yeah.
you
And
to
that's
get
why he
your,
denied.
we would like for you to
Yeah.
get your sewer in line
Okay,
so
that's
you
Yeah.
my
can get
right to
moved
tell
in.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
Yes.
it's my right to tell them. You're absolutely right.
All right.
And if you think it's
Yeah.
gonna end here, while I have TDA lines running through my property, like I said, I gave, so.
Thank you, Ms.
Mr.
Devine.
Gaines, can have,
Mr.
like,
President, we can move
who
on
has
to the planning
livestock,
commission
who I'm
now.
sure,
Yeah.
so I'm more,
Yeah, we-
detrimental to my own property
Yeah.
than livestock. And I'm sitting on
Yes.
40 acres, that there's
Right.
no
Yes.
possible,
Thank you.
risk of public contamination whatsoever.
Thank-
Okay,
thank you,
so,
ma'am.
Would you get your hand off of me, please? Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. President, we may need to pray again.
Yes,
Chuck, you get all that? You got a story now?
I'm, please don't put me.
Yeah. Mr.
There's-
President?
There are problems.
You might wanna just wait a
And
minute,
the
Mr.
sad
Vine.
thing
Yeah.
is the amount of money
Ms.
that it
Hope.
costs the
You might wanna wait just a minute
taxpayers
before you go out.
to entertain this
Yep.
every 3 or 4 months.
Yep.
These people are paid, everybody in here, are top of the agencies, so their salaries aren't cheap. And they plan and you're here, and then we do it again in 4 months.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but hopefully we can get this situation worked out.
Right.
I don't know,
I don't think it's gonna be.
I don't think so.
okay.
Un-
All
Until
right,
she
let's-
pays for it.
Let's move on.
Mr. President, I sure would like for us to express appreciation to Ms. Hoag for
Yes.
coming again.
And we'll get you an escort.
Thank
if we
you
need.
very much for coming. We appreciate that.
I will come as many times as I need to. I appreciate the fact that Rankin County is so proactive and so careful, because it's one of the faster growing counties in the state. And if you're not careful, you're gonna have, you know what, running everywhere.
Yes.
Well,
And that's
Yep.
what we have out there.
well, thank you very much
Mike
for coming and sacrificing your time to be
You don't know
here.
what I drive.
I'm gonna stay a few minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll
Yes,
get,
ma'am. You're welcome to stay.
Mike Word to get you out of here if you need to.
Okay, I wanna stay, with our public comment.
Absolutely. We don't know
And
what
let's
six
go
is
ahead,
gonna-
what would be the first issue that we wanna, Well.
I don't know, can y'all top that?
We have a list, and I guess I can go down the list, but I would like to do this in groups. If you have a common theme, or the common thing to talk about, to address, let's try to move along to where we're not repeating ourselves and everybody saying the same thing. You're welcome to come together to the mic, give name, address, and what it concerns, and I guess what's,
I think most of probably half of this stuff right here is Castlewoods folks,
okay.
but that's not gonna go into the end of that agenda.
That's gonna get covered in the planning commission, Steve.
so that
I think
so
most
y'all-
of the folks are here for planning commission,
Okay.
pretty sure.
All right, if you're with the group that's talking about Castlewoods, hold on, and I'll try to run through the agenda quickly.
Yeah.
All right, otherwise,
Anywhere else on there.
Is there anyone here signed up for public comment not dealing with Castlewoods?
Yeah, it makes that easy.
All right.
How about that?
so everybody that's sitting here for public comment, I'm not talking about our road manager or something like that. If you're sitting here for public comment and does not deal with Castlewoods, please come forward.
I'm just sitting in for
Yeah,
the legal.
you're
I
good.
think the rest of it's gonna be on the
Okay, I know.
planning commission.
Okay. All right, so we are gonna go on from public comments. Craig?
Consideration.
Yes, sir.
Do you wanna do
Wait, Steve, I think.
Public comments or
look
go-
at- No,
go
go
straight
to
to
the
this?
planning commission.
Okay.
Let's open the
Yeah.
planning commission and
All right.
do,
All right, I'll call that meeting to order, and consideration and approval of our April 27th minutes. So I have a motion.
I'll
So
make,
moved.
second.
All right, Jared makes motion, Brad seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. All right, old business. Do we have any matters that we need to talk about that's old business?
There is no old business.
Okay, no old business, so I'm not gonna take a motion. New considerations.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
The first item under new considerations is a conditional use permit for Jesse Odom and Bonnie Bentley on Levi Cooper Road. They're seeking the conditional use permit to construct a 5,000 square foot weddings and event venue. It's a 110 acre parcel. It's zoned A2. That's an aerial view of the property. So they're wanting to make sure that they can be approved for this use before they obtain detailed drawings. This is a little preliminary sketch plan. Oops, sorry. Well, sorry. All right, so she's saying that the venue's gonna be located approximately 2,000 yards from the road. She's showing a gravel driveway or entrance coming in, a 10,000 square foot gravel parking area. This is where the building will be placed. And she shows a future chapel and an outdoor patio area. Their proposed hours are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Friday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 10:30. These are pictures of what they believe the buildings will look like. She said it would be almost identical to these pictures. And this is an interior view. They're here today if you have any questions for them. These are views of that property. And these are surrounding properties. Levi Cooper's off 49 at the Star.
Oh, okay.
Now, I know that Levi Cooper Road is pretty narrow road. And we don't have any plans on doing anything to the Levi Cooper Road as of now, so. I mean, it is a chip seal road.
It is what it is, yeah.
It's not a wide road, not a lot of traffic on that road.
Right.
So you made them aware of that and our intentions of not improving it?
We don't have any intentions of improving it.
If I may, gentlemen, I know it's a little bit unusual to hear from me at this stage. This is simply a new consideration, but the staff has already been at work considering some conditions that the board may want to consider as a part of this request, and so I would like to go through those conditions that have been developed to this point. There may be others as we move through the process that come to mind that will need to be added. But this may be a good point in time before we get to a public hearing on this. This may be a good point in time to start talking about and allowing the applicant to hear the conditions that have been considered, at least by the staff, and would be probably recommended to the board. So if with your indulgence, I'll go through those conditions quickly. As Brad just mentioned, it may be necessary for the applicant to address concerns about the condition of Levi Cooper Road as a part of the development. That may include the requirement to provide a letter of credit in an amount sufficient to cover the county's cost to improve Levi Cooper Road given the additional traffic that would be necessitated by the use. There is a concern in the area that the conditions of the road are not passable at present, and more traffic will simply make that worse. Two vehicles are unable to pass abreast on Levi Cooper Road. Currently, there is concern that some of the activity at this location could lead to driving conditions that are difficult, and so there's concern about that from the local community. The second condition that we're looking at is there would be overnight or short-term occupancy of any of the structures on the property or any accessory structure in the nature of a residence, such as an Airbnb or a VRBO type of arrangement, would be strictly prohibited. No overnight VRBO type activity. Third condition, no RVs, no travel trailers would be allowed on the property for purposes of overnight stay. That would be strictly prohibited. The conditional use would be approved only and exclusively for the applicants without board authorization. So this could not be transferred, a conditional use permit that is allowed here. If this board were to allow it, that conditional use permit may not be transferred to any third party without board authorization. Any attempted transfer would be null and void. This is a big one because we've seen this in other situations like this where a development of this type is planned for the ag zone, especially our high-intensity ag zones like A2. The applicant and any successor that the board would authorize or assign that the board would authorize is not able and is enjoined from raising any complaints about future land use on neighboring properties that would be permitted in A2. The reason for the staff's recommendation in this nature is that we've seen in the past where in an A2 zone we have had a venue of this type located and a neighboring property uses their property in conformity with A2, hogs, and then we have a major conflict with brides not appreciating the smell of the neighbors. And so we want to get ahead of that and condition this conditional use by making it clear to the applicant, we're not going to listen about any complaints of neighboring property use in an A2 zone. You just get to live with what's there, okay? And then the final condition would be that the applicants, their successor assigns, must waive any right to object to any real or personal ad valorem property assessment conducted by the Office of the Rankin County Tax Assessor as to real and personal property that is the subject of this application. So those would be the conditions that we've come up with to this point, and I just simply wanted to address that before the board in the presence of the applicant so that they could hear what the staff's recommendation would be before we go farther.
Are they here?
Yeah, anyone like to come up and speak on this matter? If you would, just state your name and your address for the record. Thank y'all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Hi,
morning.
I'm Bonnie Bentley. I'm stationed at Herbertfield, Florida. So I'm up with my daughter. And yes, we had just purchased this property, she and her
My
husband.
name is Jessie Odom. I live at 602 Conti Drive, by the way.
Good deal.
Just want to introduce myself too.
Yeah.
As the lady had just mentioned, Rankin County is definitely growing. It's quite different from Florida, beautiful. So when they purchased this property, we had been in contact with quite a few of my other friends have venues in different places, of course, Texas around. And so our envision is to bring a nice venue, not just for weddings. We'd like to incorporate some of these schools to allow them to have their proms, churches to allow them to have any kind of ceremonies they may have, just something to bring the community together and grow. And that's why we was looking at this property that we had just recently purchased. Yes, it's 100 acres, and yes, I am aware of the different agriculture and livestock that may be around that area, but the way we're envisioning it and to place the venue is not close to anybody's other lines to where they may be right next to the barn.
Right.
But
Good
then
idea.
again, they may want to come and see some livestock, so that could be an
bonus.
addition to the event. We'd have to charge extra, of course.
But y'all do understand the situation with the Levi Cooper Road itself, being a narrow rural county road, and we don't have any plans in the foreseeable future of widening it, because we would have to go in and pretty much start at one end and go to the other end,
Purchase right away and everything.
acquiring right of way and stuff like that, unless landowners want to donate it, and there's a lot of folks that
Let's not do that.
It's not
Utilities,
feasible.
move utilities, and it's a major.
As long as y'all understand that the road is gonna probably be like this for a while.
Kind of is what it is, yeah.
I mean, you know, I've noticed a lot of the homeowners back through there, and I think there was another business back through there that used the road. But yes, we are aware of that.
Okay.
Just want to make sure you know that up front, so that's good.
It's
a beautiful place.
Like it's gonna be a beautiful place, and I think you'll do a lot of business there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. President, these are just new
Yep.
considerations.
All right,
So
let's-
we'll go through those, and then you'll have
All
a
right.
chance to set your hearings right after that.
Next item.
Our next, go ahead.
Okay, the next item is a conditional use permit for Al and Stephanie Tadlock at 3992 Highway 80. The Tadlocks are seeking the conditional use permit to replace a manufactured home on this property. It's a 20-acre parcel. It's zoned RE1. That's an aerial. They had a home on the property that burned. It's located, the home was located right here. And then his mother has a home on this side of the property. They lived there for 27 years. Their home burned in March. The RE1 does allow for a manufactured home in temporary hardship or emergency situations. His mother is 88 years old and needs them to help care for her and maintain the property. We did receive a letter from her doctor. And these are views of that property where the old manufactured home was placed. The new home will go in the exact same location. And then these are surrounding properties.
All right, I have talked with Renee, I've talked, with the owners. They've got, it's a large tract, they meet our, interest in the, I guess, hardship case, and, the one that burnt, they're coming back with a very new trailer. I don't even know if you can see it from the road. But anyhow, all that to say, only two things I want is, the property would not be subdivided later without board approval. And I think you understand what my interest is. I don't want to say, well, we do it one time and then we'll do it one more time, we'll do it another time. This is a one time. The manufactured home cannot be used as a rental property. Those are the two Okay, all right. Any other issues or I mean, I think we're good to let it go for our public hearing later. All right, go ahead, Renee.
Next is a conditional use permit for Joseph Douglas Baldwin at 229 Leaning Oak Cove. Mr. Baldwin is seeking the conditional use permit to convert an existing pole barn into a barn dominium with metal siding. It's a 13-acre parcel. It's zoned RE1. Leaning Oak is off of Highway 471 on the east side, and his property is at the very end. It's a private drive. That's an aerial view. And then this is his site plan. You can see the pole barn right here. It's 100 feet from the adjoining property line. And he says that it will look, I'll have white metal siding with black trim and gutters like this picture. All three of the adjoining neighbors on the private drive have given Mr. Baldwin their approval. They don't have an issue with it. This is a view of that property. That's the pole barn. And these are surrounding properties. And a representative is here today if you have any questions.
I do not have questions. I've spoke with both Mr. Baldwin and him and you. So let's move on.
Okay. Next is a conditional use permit for Ronnie Williamson at 1140 Highway 469 North. Mr. Williamson is seeking the conditional use permit to mine 18 acres of this property. It's a 27-acre parcel. It's zoned RE1A. That's an aerial view of the property. He was previously approved for a 4-acre exempt mining permit, and now he's expanding into a full mining permit. He's made application to DEQ. He says that he wants to dig in the areas shown in pink, 3 areas, approximately 4 feet deep. He's trying to lower these areas to make the property drain better. He will be selling the dirt. Once all that's completed, he'll apply topsoil, and then he plans to place the property for sale. This is a view of that property. And these are surrounding properties. I'm not sure if he's here today or not.
Mm-mm. I'll make a motion to accept it. Well,
Just move on.
No, we're not doing it now. Yeah,
Okay.
right.
All
Later.
right.
I don't think any other questions on that, really.
We have a list of conditions
Right.
that we are
Mhm.
prepared to present at the time of the hearing.
Right.
He already mined there, some, right?
Yeah, well, he's
That's
trying
what
to,
it's like.
he basically, in a nutshell, he's trying to just clean it up, smooth it out.
To make it
but-
drain.
Make it drain, and then it's set. He's already mined the bulk of it, but he's got some hot spots he wants to clean up rather than having to load them and move them over here. He just wants to sell those designated spots out and get it slicked up and reclaim it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The next item is a conditional use permit for Jeffrey and Deborah Kovitz at 209 McLaurin Drive. They're seeking the conditional use permit to operate a bed and breakfast. This is in Barnett Bend 3. The property is zoned R1B. That's an aerial view. And this is a picture of the home. Bed and breakfast inns are listed as a conditional use permit in the R1B district. They purchased the home to use as a vacation home. They have a daughter who lives in Canton, and they plan to stay in the home hopefully one time a month when they visit their daughter, and the rest of the time they plan to continue to rent the home out as a short-term rental. We found out about this property through the neighborhood. We've gotten some calls about increase in traffic and people coming in and out of the neighborhood. I think that they may be here today if you have any questions, and these are surrounding properties.
Yeah, come on up. Yeah, we'll get time to do it. Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm Jeff, and this is Debbie Kovitz, and we reside at 1596 Ridge Point Court in Lawrenceville, Georgia. That's where our home resident, permanent resident is.
Okay. Well, this is an odd duck, needs to say, you know, you're in the middle of a small subdivision, or smaller home subdivision. And generally, when you think of a bed and breakfast, that someone's on site to feed someone breakfast, you know, so.
Sure.
Do y'all intend to be here while you rent it out, or are you just doing Airbnb?
We live in Georgia, so we are not here as we rent it out, so.
Right.
But
we do provide breakfast. I mean, we do provide, you know, basically it's not a hot breakfast, but it's, you know, a breakfast that they
Got
have.
some
It's
cereal
like
there?
cereal and
Yeah.
snack bars and things like that. For them when they come in.
I
So
don't
it's
know.
basically like an Airbnb then?
Yes, sir.
That's the rules that we're following, by the way, too, is Airbnb, because they've got some pretty strict rules to follow and some guidance on all of our guests. All of our guests have to be vetted through Airbnb.
Have you spoken with any of the neighbors?
No, we haven't.
Oh, we did speak to the neighbor on if you face the house on the right-hand side. Gave him our card, said if there's any trouble, any issues, they didn't seem to have a problem with it, but we hadn't been able to get, because people work, trying to get, when we're here and when they're here, and we're not, trying to get a hold of them. We just haven't done that.
Well, there's a lot of systems in place to make sure that we're not a nuisance to the neighborhood. I don't understand the traffic thing because we're like the second house in the neighborhood. And so.
And there's a stop sign there, so there's traffic all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we were like a restaurant where there's people just constantly coming and going, but when they come, it's like a family that's coming to visit, go to a wedding. Right now, we have an anesthesiologist who's actually working at the hospital. Him and his wife want to bring their dog, so we allow pets as well. So they're doing that to serve the community that way.
So
we-
obviously, there's been someone upset about it, or else you wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
You know? So-
Yeah, and they haven't contacted us directly either, so.
We
you know,
would love
don't
to
know what
talk
the
to 'em.
concern is, you know.
All right.
Be
I
happy to
think
try
it
to
is, it's
reconcile.
just different people coming and going from week to week, and, I mean, neighbors like to know who's living
Yeah.
beside them or.
Right. So gentlemen, the issue here is that we don't address directly, we haven't yet, although we've begun the process of evaluating how to do so. We don't address specifically Airbnb, VRBO type of arrangements. Those contemplate that the house is just available, but there's no one really there to oversee, okay? It's kind of an honor system type deal of a sort as it relates to the behavior while in the property. okay?
Well, I can address
So,
that.
no, I'm addressing the board.
Sorry.
So we haven't gotten to the point yet where we are directly addressing how, as a county, in unincorporated county, we're gonna deal with these specific types of rental type arrangements, short-term rental type arrangements. We've had significant conversations with CMPDD about that. Renee, we probably are pretty close to having a regulatory, something that you guys can look at pretty quickly, but we're not ready to do that just yet. As it relates to this specific request, the conditional use application is asking that it fall within the definition of, because it's really the only one that works, potentially, it falls within the definition of bed and breakfast. You allow, under your current zoning ordinance, a bed and breakfast setup as a conditional use in the R1B, which is what this is. Okay, so your first consideration on June the 5th at the hearing will be, does this meet your zoning ordinance's definition of bed and breakfast? Okay, so that's what you'll be hearing on June 5th.
This is really
Primarily.
set for July the 14th.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, July 14th. So this one's going to be even later. So on the 14th of July, that will be front and center for your consideration. At some point, I hope to have you guys looking at a specific set of regulations that apply to VRBO, Airbnb, and more, the more modernized versions of these short-term rental arrangements that we're seeing pretty consistently. Yeah.
Now, you go ahead, tell us what you're saying about security.
Yeah, so we are not actually on the property, but we have a listening device. We don't listen. It's a noise device
Noise detection,
to
smoke
measure
detection.
the amount of noise going on in the property, so we're always monitoring that. There's cameras on the
Yeah.
front and the back.
Front and back to monitor.
We monitor the guests coming in and going out and make sure there's no more guests than they originally told us.
Okay.
We allow 6 people in the property
Maximum.
at one time.
All right.
Um,
And we've had guests ask to take, can we have somebody else said, no, we just can't do that, so we've turned people down, to have, just to try to avoid the potential party. And there's absolutely no parties allowed. That's
we
one of
have
our
a
rules.
strict set of rules,
We've also got a rental agreement that they have
rental
to sign.
agreement with,
as
has a
well.
million
So-
rules. But this is mainly to offer people coming into the community a place to stay, people that can't take their dog to a hotel, people that are on a long-term basis, working at the hospital, visiting family. We've done transitioning families out of a house into a house. So we feel like we're a benefit to the community.
Right.
And I don't feel like we cause any disturbance.
Yeah, I don't know what the issue is, but I tell
We
you,
don't
if
need
you come July 14th, we're gonna find out.
Oh,
if somebody
yes.
shows up.
Sure.
And
We'll be
happy.
happy.
hear
We're
what
here to
their
try
point
to,
of view is.
we're here to try to address that.
Yeah.
Try to help people understand, because we're not here to hurt the community. That's not our intent. Our intent is to try to, because, we maintain the house, we keep the lawn mowed, we're trying to, because if people want to stay there, we got to have the house maintained very well.
Right.
So that they want to come and stay. In fact, if you look at our ratings, we've got 5-star ratings for the people that have been there. So that tells you, we're trying to run this as professionally as we can and as
Right.
quietly.
So it's not just, it's just day, you just rent it out each day?
Two-night minimum.
Okay, two
is a
nights.
requirement.
But
Yeah.
let's say
Most
somebody
of-
wants to stay there a month and y'all want to go to Canton, visit your daughter. Y'all gonna just stay in a hotel or tell them they have to leave that day?
Oh,
and-
no,
No,
we
we
wouldn't
wouldn't
tell
do
them
that.
to leave. We would stay with our daughter then. We just didn't want to impose on them. We have a new grandbaby
I got
here,
you.
and we want to have a place to stay.
Sometimes seeing family too much.
I understand.
Needs some separation. We would like to say too, on the occupancy, in terms of traffic and things, we're only running about 50 to 60% occupancy, which is pretty typical. It might peak up to 70, but
So on the days that nobody's there, there's no traffic.
there's no traffic.
Yeah.
So,
Almost half the time.
I was
there's
a
no traffic.
stay-at-home mom for 100 years, and I went in and out all
All the
day
time.
long. So
With the
I
kids.
don't understand the extra.
So what we're dealing with, gentlemen, is that the market and culture has moved ahead, and we have to catch up sometimes with our regulations. And this use right now doesn't fit, it doesn't fit on all squares with your current regulatory scheme under your land use. So we're trying our best to figure out what is a regulatory scheme this board can live with that would work for this type use, and then we'll set that in place and make sure that those minimum standards are being complied with. It sounds like the way that the corporate world of VRBO and Airbnb operate, they have already anticipated a lot of the concerns of local government, and they build those into the way that they force folks who use their systems to operate.
That's correct.
So that you would have good compliance locally. If you're meeting them, you're probably meeting the local. But we want to make sure that we set our regulations in a way that addresses every concern, because not every community is the same. So I think what we may have here is a land use that's happening, doesn't fit within our current zoning ordinance, may not necessarily be appropriate for a conditional use at this time, but there is coming, I hope, a set of regulations that would help to address this.
Yes.
Okay? It may not necessarily happen on July 14th, but it could happen at some point in the not-too-distant future if we have our way.
Okay.
Thank you,
Would it be
Craig.
beneficial,
Oh, sure, yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
would it be beneficial for them to contact any neighbors?
Well, it wouldn't hurt if you're in town to talk to some of them, because obviously someone has
Somebody.
complained, or else we wouldn't be here right now.
Sure,
you
right.
know? And if you could smooth that over,
Ahead of time would probably be
yeah,
a good idea.
it'd be great.
Yeah, okay.
All
Well,
right.
Thanks for that
Is there any
recommendation.
way to get the name of the person that has been calling, so that we don't have to knock
I
on
just-
doors?
I would
Go
check
out there and
your
knock on the doors around.
Yeah, we'll find out real quick.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
We don't disclose the names or addresses of
Let's,
complainers. I would
Sure, we
just
understand.
strongly suggest that you get in touch with, if there is an HOA, I don't
There
even
is
know.
no HOA.
All right, well, then contact as many of your close around neighbors as you can.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you for that.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
time,
Good luck.
gentlemen.
This, is not my district. I think the concept is great, but you're not the only one that's gonna wanna do this.
Well, there's
And you-
many in place right now,
And
so.
in my district, I'm gonna be very, very careful, and I'm sure when we put these regs together, I've got to think about people that may not be as wholesome as you are. And what about the neighbors that live there and have put their life investment right there beside you, and then their property starts devaluing if you weren't taking care of it like you do. So think about what we gotta look at
Sure.
when you come out. All right, you're excused.
Just real quick, would it be helpful if we sent you some of like the rental agreement things that we consider are regulatory to us?
You
Right.
can
That you
send
might
them
wanna-
to,
Might be helpful.
send them
These two.
to one of these people,
Yeah, we've talked. My wife's
Okay.
talked.
and we'll look at them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead,
All right,
Renee.
The last item is a conditional use permit for Grant Thompson at 968 Woodrow Martin Road. Mr. Thompson is seeking the conditional use permit to operate a wedding and events venue on this property. It's a 200-acre parcel. It's zoned A2. That's an aerial view of the property. Mr. Thompson started construction of a 5,500 square foot metal building to be used as a deer camp, and he's proposing now to convert the first floor or use it for weddings and events. The second floor will be used as the deer camp and will not be accessible by the public during weddings and events. This is a view of that property coming in off of Woodrow Martin. That's a view of the building. There will be a circular concrete drive in the front, and then the other parking area is proposed as limestone, I believe. He's here today if you have any questions.
Today is noteworthy. It's
And-
twice that I'm coming forward on this. We have been, the staff has been communicating about conditions that would be appropriate here, gentlemen, and that if I may, given the fact the applicant is here today, maybe this would be a good time for the applicant to hear the conditions that have been put together at this stage. There may be additional conditions that pop up before we get to the hearing, which I understand is set for June the 5th. So it's upcoming very quickly. The first condition would be this, gentlemen: the venue cannot be used for events other than family members. It cannot be used for events other than family members until a set of sealed plans are received by the county and an inspection of life safety items is conducted by the building official and the fire marshal, and any items that are noted as non-compliant as a result of the life safety inspection, if any, are corrected and a building permit is issued. So you will be, as a condition, you will be allowing a family event or events just for the family, okay, until those conditions have been met. All right, this would allow for the applicant, if the applicant has something scheduled that's a family event that would be very difficult for the applicant to reschedule.
I think they got something big coming up.
I think they do. In fact, the applicant probably would not be present for any continued discussion of this item if he attempted to reschedule that. And so we don't want to put the applicant in that position. Access to the second floor, as you heard, will not be used as a part of the venue. And so that second floor access must be blocked off and marked as private during venue events, okay? We don't want the public going up and down. We're not going to review the upstairs as if it is assembly space, and therefore there doesn't need to be any assembly upstairs. Does that make sense? The occupancy load must be determined by an architect or an engineer. So that sealed set of plans, the engineer that does that seal needs to look at the occupancy load and establish that occupancy load so that that can be posted at the venue. And then the applicant will be required to submit a copy of any food service permit from the Mississippi State Department of Health. So any of the kitchen facilities are going to have to be reviewed, and there needs to be full compliance with those kitchen facilities with all regulations, and a food license process will have to be completed. That is all a condition before we are the staff's authorized to issue a building permit. Okay? So those would be the conditions. I want to make sure that the applicant had a chance to hear all that.
Mr. Grant, would you like to come up?
Thank you, and thanks for the conditions there, and I appreciate that. First, I'd like to say that this all started as a deer count, and that was the process, and I'll be very transparent that we got through the process. The event that Brad and Craig mentioned is actually my daughter's wedding, so I would really beg and plead to let that happen. I won't have a ride home today if I can't have that wedding take place today, or Saturday is when it's coming. This started as a deer count, literally started, came and met with Miss Renee months and months ago, and talked to Brad and really went through the process. It's actually 250 acres. I think there was a parcel that was missing on the bottom of that. It's 250 acres in the middle of absolutely nowhere on our private place. As the way this all came about was building a red iron building. That the red iron itself, those plans have been stamped. The building itself up to standards of 110 mile-an-hour winds. We got this process started with the intention of it being just a getaway deer camp, getaway cabin for our family and friends. As fate would have it, we start taking pictures of our daughters who are getting married. We have 2 weddings coming up, both daughters. And one thing led to another, and it got public on Facebook. And the next thing you know, we are getting calls like crazy. Can we come look at this place? So as was stated, we have no intentions whatsoever of doing anything upstairs in the building other than what I would call my deer camp, my man cave. If there is any issues with the kitchen at all, as noted earlier, we are not actually physically serving food to anybody that might rent it. If somebody wants to use a caterer that just comes in and puts their stuff in the kitchen, we still have intentions of making the kitchen where it needs to be, but we have no plans of preparing food at all. Anybody that might rent it in the future could cater food and just use the facility, is the plans. I talked to Ms. Renee about parking. I've got the plot, Ms. Renee, I've just noticed, I emailed that to you this morning, early. It did not go through. I'm gonna give it to you before I leave. But we have a plot plan for parking. We have 65 numbered parking spots with the allotment of handicap parking that we need, which is 3. 1 van accessible handicap, which is on concrete, and that's in the front of the building on the Circle Drive. This parking lot on this end of the building is where the 58 parking spots are, and then just adjacent to that, right across the drive in another gravel parking lot behind that truck is an additional 5 parking spots to meet the 65.
Okay.
And we do have plans, by the way. I'm meeting with a structural engineer, as noted earlier. I'm meeting with a structural engineer tomorrow. He's going to come out. It's Smithers Engineering. Chaz himself is coming where he's going to look at the plans. He's going to view the building, and he has plans to make whatever recommendations I have to get up to speed for him to stamp those plans, and they will be stamped.
And our community development folks, I think, are planning a meeting with you sometime this week.
I think the fire marshal is coming Friday, and so is the inspector.
All right.
Brian has already been there on one occasion, and we have gotten to the point where the electricity is already in the building. We have gotten approval for that. And all the septic is where it needs to be too legally.
All right.
We're in good shape there.
Appreciate it, Grant.
Thank you.
Grant, do you intend to enhance any of our county roads?
Actually, would you?
Okay. All right, let's move to our public hearings, and
No, we got it, yeah.
Just need to set those hearings.
I'll make a motion to set 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for June the 5th.
So, second.
all right. Brad make the motion to set 1 through 5 for June the 5th. Jared seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we have 6.
I'll make a motion to set 6.
All right, Calhoun makes a motion. Does-
Second.
Okay, Jared seconds that motion.
Y'all can participate.
Well, I'm looking for the district that belongs to the person. All right, we have a motion by Brad, a second by Jared. Any other discussion? All in favor, that is set
Aye.
for the 14th. Motion passes. All right, site plan.
All right, so, this is a revised site plan for Barry Chalk on Andrew Chapel Road. You'll recall at the last meeting that he was approved, for building one only of an office warehouse facility on this property. It's a 2.58 acre parcel zoned I-2. Those are an aerial. And, this is the original site plan. Building one is shown in, red. He has revised the plan and reconfigured, building one. He showed the 3 other buildings as future. And so on the new plan, he's reconfigured it, turned it, and he did away with one of those buildings, so now there will only be 3. The ordinance requires a major change to come back before the board for approval, and that's really the only change.
He's just turning the building.
He just turned the building.
I like this plan better.
He said it would be
yeah.
more feasible all the way around, I think. He's here if y'all have questions for him, but.
I don't have
I'm
any
good
questions. Yeah.
That's yours.
Yeah, I'm good.
So it's just approving
Yeah.
building one only.
Okay. Do we need to make the motion and?
Yes, sir.
To approve it? All right, I'll make the motion to approve these changes and go forward.
I'll second that motion.
All right, I make the motion, Brad seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. All right, now we go to property review.
All right, this is a review for Sandy Blaylock, for a parcel on the corner of Castlewoods Boulevard and Woodlands Drive. That just shows, the location there. That's an aerial. And this is a survey, showing her property when she purchased it here. I believe it's 2.05 acres. I can't read that writing anymore, sorry. And so this is her proposed layout. She wants to divide it into 2 lots. One home here that would face Castlewoods Boulevard, and then one that would face Woodlands Drive. And then this is her floor plan here for the house, and this is the elevation showing what the house would look like. It has an RV garage on the end attached to the house.
What's the normal out there?
A lot smaller than that.
That's it.
It's in the middle of the neighborhood.
Mr. President, if I may, this is a property review. You're actually not being asked to set anything for a hearing. You're not being asked to take any action on this at all. This is simply a review. We have been made aware that there is an intention to develop this parcel by subdividing and then constructing residences. There has been feedback received from the surrounding property owners and the community at large. And so this is an opportunity for you to hear or to address any concerns that you may have before you actually are asked to receive an application for a conditional use.
So Renee, what was the other one? Is it just like this?
Yes, it'll be the exact same house.
Just 2 of them identical?
Yes.
Okay.
One on Castlewoods and
One
one on
just
Woodlands
facing.
Drive.
All right. Would somebody like to come up and address this situation, or?
You want to hear complaints first, or do you want me to
Come up and set the groundwork. Let us know what's going on.
come? Okay, so,
State your name for the
Yeah.
record, please.
my name's Christian Cowan, 663 Hidden Hills Crossing. Telling Tim earlier, I mean, I've been up here before, I've talked to y'all before, I get nervous every time, I'm gonna blame the camera. Okay, so the idea is that, the property on this version to the left is where she would build a home. The other parcel, she would like to subdivide out so that if someone else wants to purchase the property, not necessarily the exact same plan, we just put that on there just so that you can kind of see what it would look like. The area of that other parcel is 15,000 square feet, which this is all rated or zoned R1B, which is well above the minimum for the square footage for an R1B parcel. We have met with Paul Forster with the city of Flowood, and as far as getting access to the sewer, which is on, in this picture, the bottom right portion of the property is where the manhole is. coming across, there's actually a creek on the rear part of the property that he has given us guidance on how he would like the sewer to be accessed for both parcels. I don't really know, I mean, I don't know if there's concern that, like, the rear part of the property is pretty much gonna be undisturbed. It will remain wooded as it is right now, particularly behind the creek, so that she still has a wooded area right there. But also, I mean, as far as any additional use in that area, there's really not, because the creek kind of impedes all of that.
Christian, on that map right there, is that an RV camping shed building? What's
Okay, so if I may.
Hey, Ms. Renee, will you back up a
I can
slide
use
for me?
that. So, yes, that right there is an RV garage, okay? In addition to a traditional.
how many of those have you built in Castlewood since you developed most of it? How many RV
I have
garages
not.
do we have? You
I
never
have
built
not.
one there?
Can we back up and see the house?
But that doesn't mean that there's not a use for that. This particular parcel, because it does have, and because she's gonna keep that part, she will have access to a road, which most, again, now keep in mind, this is not actually a part of Castlewood's
I know,
HOA.
I know.
This
But
is-
and I guess that's the part that bothers me the most is that we should be complying with the Castlewoods HOA out of courtesy. Not that we have to, right? Because it touches it all, right? So we would think being good stewards to our area, we'd want to kind of go along with what our HOA believes that should be the right type of homes that we should put in those neighborhoods. I know we've had a bunch of homes that's popped up sporadically throughout the Woodlands area, right? That were not necessarily were taken or withdrawn off a plat well before I came on the board. How those happened, I'm not exactly sure, but those homes also fell outside the HOA's scope. So they've been able to exist just kind of on the free range portion of it.
Right.
So the fears that I believe the people have and the fears that I have fall around the compliance of what's compatible to the neighborhood, right? What's something that's compatible that goes along with what's already existing there in the Castlewoods area. So what confuses me right here, the initial spot is why we're putting an RV home style shed garage in the middle of the subdivision. Can you tell me that?
No.
I can't either.
Is
So
it gonna be self-contained, like?
I mean, it's
Enclosed?
brick matched
Brick,
or.
just out a door.
Well, actually, the RV garage is actually gonna be siding as it's drawn right there, which is kind of hard to
But in
tell,
your-
but,
in your-
but
in
to
your
go with
opinion,
the
though, would
siding
you-
that's over the front porch.
would you think that's compatible with the area? Since you developed most of it.
Well, I would say that there's a vast variety of homes in that neighborhood.
But would
For
you think- but
example,
would you
if
think
you
an
look at the
RV
two
garage-
parcels that are down there on Woodlands Green,
Yeah.
I don't think that those have been considered not necessarily compatible
Right,
with the
so the
HOA.
weird part about that is it's tucked way back in the very back, right? That
Right.
you can't see it unless you go right past it.
Okay,
The issue with this one is it's on Castlewood's Boulevard,
okay,
which everybody drives up and down. And then everyone is gonna be able to see a house with an RV. I guess my issue is we have a special HOA in Castlewoods. And then when I say it's special, it's special. It's special because they pay attention to every little thing that goes on all the time. And we constantly watch and try to do things to be sure we keep our values and property in a good spot, right?
okay.
So my issue would be, is why can't we put this house as a courtesy under the same compliance ordinances that our HOA falls under? Why wouldn't we do that? Wouldn't that make more sense to us all? I know you're getting stuck up here to talk, I get that, that's okay.
Right.
But that's.
Well, keep in mind,
that's
I mean,
my issue.
I'm asked to do what I'm asked to do.
What you're paid to do.
Right.
100% right.
Right.
So since you're up here, I'll just ask, but yeah, I'm not even asking you. I'm just making the statements that bother me. I don't like having RV garages in the middle of a neighborhood.
Okay,
I definitely don't like to see them on Castlewoods Boulevard.
okay.
So that's my first issue on the cosmetic side of everything. My second issue, and I'm sure you're gonna do your due diligence on this, is our runoff and water issues, our drainage issues. Because obviously we know Castlewoods Boulevard is gonna be higher than that lot, unless you
Correct.
bring it way back in. And all that water from Castlewoods Boulevard flows into that little creek right behind it, which tends to overrun from time to time, right? Because all that creek there is headed into Mill Creek, right? Which we're trying to flow it out to the reservoir. So I'm sure your water flow and your engineering development is gonna account for the water flow coming through the middle of that property, right?
So
Because it
you're
won't come-
saying that
because it-
adding a home to that property is gonna increase the flow of water into
No, I'm
the,
not.
to
I'm
the
saying,
creek?
I'm saying it's gonna disrupt the natural path that it's going right now. because it can't go through the middle of the lot to get through that area, right? Because there's gonna be a house in the middle of it, 2 of them. So it's gotta go somewhere, around it from another route. So you're gonna divert the water that's naturally flowing from the boulevard, right?
No, because
You're not?
I don't know.
Your engineers will look at that, I'm sure, and bring it back to us to see. So that's one of my concerns. Water flow, getting it off that property, right? You're gonna have the same issue.
I
Right.
mean, we would divert the water around the home, yes.
Somewhere. So, and I'm sure your engineer will come back and give us some plans for that. So I was just telling you my 2 issues. My issue is water runoff. My issue is the cosmetics of the house that not really in compliance with what our neighborhood values are right there, right? And my point being, putting an RV garage standing as tall as the roof line, maybe even above it. I can't even see if it's even with it or not. But
Okay.
a separate structure attaching to it. Those are my 2 just issues, just on my initial look at this thing right here. But we're just reviewing it and having discussion so we can all see it. So that's my initial take on it, right?
Okay. Is that an opinion or is that an official stance from the board?
That's my opinion. There's going to be 3 votes that's going to give you an official stance from the board if it comes to that, right?
Okay.
So 1 vote here means nothing, but 3 does.
I mean, is there an option that if he wants to, if the lady wants an RV, park it down there at a rental place or build something off-site or behind the house or what?
Well, I'm sure this isn't the only person in there that has an RV. Where do they go?
Not the only one with an RV.
Where do they
Nearest
park
RV
theirs?
is 1 block away, and it's literally an RV garage made out of metal, and it's directly across the street from the country club. Directly across the street from the country club.
Because we allowed them
We're gonna give
We're gonna
folks
give
a
everybody
chance.
an option.
Okay.
There are
We're gonna give
several
folks.
RVs in
The spot,
I'm sorry.
the spot she's talking about is in the older part of Castlewood. That's not in the HOA side. So like if you turn in on Bradford by the golf course,
Yeah.
where you turn into the club, directly across the
What
street.
you're
there's
telling
an
me
older
is
home.
that one is not really
It's in-
approved
it's
by
in-
the
well,
neighborhood.
It's in an older section
Okay.
of Castlewood.
But this
Okay.
one's not in the HOA.
Okay.
No, but this is
It's
a
on
little,
the main
this is a little
drag, yeah.
plat that's
Yeah.
cut out of the actual developments of everything, but it's on the main
Let's-
boulevard. So, but
I
it's
got you.
right in front of Woodland subdivision where you
Yeah.
go into it.
It's
right? So-
immediately adjacent to the platted subdivision, and it is highly visible. You can't get to the Woodlands without driving past the proposed residential
Correct.
structure.
Let's move on. You're through, aren't you?
Okay,
You-
as far as I know.
I mean, if you have something else to add, go ahead, but if not, let's move on.
Okay.
Because we got a lot of people that we want to get an opportunity.
You're receiving information, gentlemen. That's all this is. You're
If, yeah,
receiving information.
if somebody wants to speak for a group, or if a group wants to come up and we just don't have time to say, do 15 or 20 minutes for each person. And okay? So work with me, please, and do you want me to call you by name, or do you want to, I mean, I've got a list of people that signed in.
Probably the easier way to do it is just whoever wants to volunteer to speak, come up and speak if you'd like, to say either for or against it, or have your discussions.
Can I speak briefly?
Absolutely. Come on.
Remember, give us your name and address.
I'm gonna let some of the other people, I'll make it
Okay.
brief.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say this, a few years ago.
Well,
we
Hey,
well,
if you
moved-
would, tell
I'm
the board who
sorry,
you
my
are.
name's Lisa Fitchie. I live at 105 Woodlands Green Drive. I pass this lot every day coming and going, as does everyone in the Woodlands. We've had to go through a lot over the years, and I know those lots were set aside green spaces. When it was sold, someone bought it and decided to sell them to be developed. So that's one thing, we're all assured, these are green spaces, they'll never be developed. So that was one thing that changed, and there's not much we can do about it now. The old part of Castle Woods, which Sandy was referring to, we let them out of the HOA, which was the biggest mistake that ever happened in our neighborhood, as far as I'm concerned, that's my opinion. But to see this, and I know what that traffic is like in the morning, we have school buses, we have people coming and going from work, it's gonna be treacherous. I appreciate your comments, I know you already said that, but to me, aesthetically, this looks like almost an accessory to 2 garages, or 2 and 8, you see what I mean? It's almost all RV,
you know, that's the same height. I don't know how tall is the roof on your home? Do you know? So it's like for a big class.
Ma'am, just deal with the board,
Okay,
please.
well, I have
That's
questions that probably she can only answer, so I'm not picking, I promise. Anyway, I'll let someone else address some of the other issues that have been happening. But, we moved there because it was such a pretty area and so many pretty wooded lots, and that has gone down in flames. So we just appreciate your consideration for those of us who have lived there for years. We moved from one section to another because we love Castle Woods, and we don't.
Well, you just made the comment on the traffic. A lot of traffic goes by there. I mean, of course, I don't know how many folks will be living in that house.
I
but
think
mean,
I think it was more the visual side what she was meaning.
That
as far as
also,
the- yeah.
yes, but it's, anybody trying to pull in and out, there's a three-way stop there that we have had multiple accidents, there over the time. I'm gonna cut my time short.
That's all right.
I had a lot to say, but I think you covered a lot of it, so,
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. I don't start calling out names.
If anybody else wants to speak, you're welcome to. This is your
No.
forum to speak if you'd like.
You're here,
It's up to you.
please don't leave and say, I wish I'd have got up there and said that.
Got sewer issues.
Come on,
call
come
me.
on.
Yeah.
Tell us your name and address.
Ann Talbert, 255 Azalea Court. I've lived in Castle Woods for 23 years. And the questions, I just had a couple I was thinking of last night, and I'm sure it's out there on the record somewhere, but how were these lots originally zoned? They're there by a commercial building. So what, does anybody know what the original intention was for these two lots?
Ms. Renee, you
It
may
was
can
zoned
speak
to
more.
R1B, but zoning was adopted in 2004. I'm not sure how long that other building's been there.
It's
I was
probably
just
been there a good
curious.
while. It's probably been there before 2004.
Ms. Renee, can you please tell folks that are here what is allowed in R1B? What does that mean?
Single-family residential homes, lots with medium density. The required lot square footage, minimum square footage of lots is 8,500 square feet.
That's the lot size, that's not the house size, that's the lot size, 8,500 square feet.
And this lot's 43,000.
This lot's 15.
15,000.
Well, the one on
Second
Woodlands
parcel.
is 15,
Yes.
15,000. And the other lot is some acreage, yes.
Okay.
And I don't understand a lot about the zoning, so you have a commercial building that's already there. So I guess just from a resident standpoint, driving by it every day, the thought process probably would have been, if something else had come up, would it have been a business-like kind and like quality of the building that's already there? Or like you stated, because of the drainage, the woods, would just something never be done with it? So I think we were just all very surprised, because it's a beautiful area, it goes into a lovely part of the neighborhood, and it's gonna be an eyesore. And I think that's the main concern that most people have, is it's just not aesthetic with the rest of the neighborhood. Let me see. Was it, one more question. Was the zoning ever changed on this? Has it always been the
I think
same?
it's always been that way since
It came
'07.
into
The house, not the house, but it used to be the old HOA
Right.
building, which is right there on
Right.
that little strip. That's
The
what's
brick
right there.
building,
So
yes.
that was there, I know, in the early '90s
Mhm.
when Azalea Trails was built. That was originally
I moved there.
when it extended through. Yeah, so it's been there a long time. The zoning came in around the '07 range. So I'm going to make the assumption during that time, Ms. Renee, it was just picked up and placed in residential because it's in the middle of a subdivision.
That's right.
And they didn't want to have any other type of commercial development be able to go in right
That's
there in the
right.
middle of a subdivision, right?
I think
So-
Daniel put his
Gotcha.
finger right on it. As Castle Woods developed out, there was an original plan
Correct.
for Castle Woods. The developer puts it out there, but it's a plan. And the development activity went in accordance with some plan. The areas along Castle Woods Boulevard did not develop as quickly, and so you have unimproved lots along Castle Woods Boulevard. You would have to look back and consult the original plan for development to figure out what was the developer thinking
just
about these
curious.
lots.
Yeah.
In my mind's eye, it's that along Castle Woods Boulevard was planned for some type of what I'll call mixed use. Professional offices, maybe some residences, and then as you see down along Bradford, some smaller lots, even a multifamily type setups with, what is it called, Wicklow?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you've got
Zero lot line.
you've got a mixture of some low-intensity commercial type uses, professional type uses, and some highly dense and then less dense residential development. So the proposal that's being put forward is not so outside of line because it is a residential structure, right? The issue for the board is, and I'm mentioning this to the applicant and to her contractor, the issue for the board is how do we make this use, because it sticks out like a sore thumb, to be as compatible as possible with surrounding properties? That's what we're looking at. And I think what you've heard very clearly from your supervisor is we don't think a standalone RV shed is compatible. That needs to disappear. We need another plan that shows a residential structure sans an RV shed. Show me that. And then we'll talk about things like what is the minimum heated and cooled square footage? And is that gonna add value to surrounding property owners or not? And then the second thing you heard from your supervisor is how are we gonna control stormwater? I wanna pull my hair out when I hear a contractor, especially somebody that is of this particular contractor's experience, and I know he builds quality. He knows when you put a roof and concrete on unimproved property, you have just increased the stormwater flow. Those are impervious structures. That water's moving fast now where it was moving slowly. So I don't want to hear anything about that. We're not going to change the stormwater pattern. Bull. You get a hydrologic engineer to tell me what is happening on that property when that structure goes up. I want to know what that water's doing because it's going to impact that creek and it's going to impact surrounding properties.
Right.
So, hello, we'll be prepared to move forward on this when that RV shed is gone and when the stormwater impacts are fully addressed by a hydrologic engineer.
Yeah, and what would make my heart feel a lot better about the whole issue to both of y'all would be discuss this with the HOA and either get their blessing from it or as a courtesy to the neighborhood and the people that live there. The HOA surrounds you. It's all around you. So it would definitely make a lot of people feel a lot better in the neighborhood to be good neighbors, to discuss it with the HOA and allow the HOA to have their input. I know they have their own architectural review groups that look at things and approve plans that come through, and you don't fall under those umbrellas. So I'm asking you to do it as a courtesy because it's the right thing to do in the subdivision. So, Ms. Ann, thank you.
One more
Yes,
quick
ma'am.
thing about when you come around on Woodland Circle,
Yes, ma'am.
right behind this corner lot,
Mhm.
then you have those homes there that are elevated.
Mhm.
And they're looking down at this particular lot in the boulevard. So I think something I just thought about, it's home 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not just one.
Sure.
But how is that gonna affect them if something that large as far, I mean, they're gonna be looking over their back fence at an RV structure.
Yeah, and I guess the board really doesn't have as much to say on that as it legally can. The main wording is that's important that we try to wrap our minds around is what's compatible with the neighborhood.
I agree.
Right? So obviously that's an opinionated answer.
Are we still talking about RVs?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you cleared that
Let's,
up.
all right, Mr. Tolbert, thank you very much.
Yes,
name's
ma'am.
not on the list, but
Come
can
on
I
up.
say something?
Sure.
Name and address first.
Keely Woodfield, 427 Woodland Circle. Yes, this lot is not in the HOA, but it's been for sale for many years. I don't think what she's doing and wanting to build is anything different of any other lot in the Castlewoods. If the person would have the space in Castlewoods, there's nothing that this house says
that is against our architectural standards.
Nothing?
Nothing. No, sir, there's not. If you
you're
go
for-
onto
you're for-
Woodland Circle,
you're for-
right behind it,
So
you
you're-
have a house
You're
that
telling
has
me
an
you're-
RV.
You're telling me you're for this?
Am I for this?
That plan?
There's nothing wrong with that plan.
That's not what I asked you. I said, are you for it?
Am I for it? Yes, absolutely. If she wants to build a home there with the potential to build a second home to take care of an elderly family member, she bought the land. She is
I
someone
just-
who
I
has
just
been
need-
on
I
our
was just- I was
board
just asking
and
if
represented
you were
our
in support.
association for almost 7 or 8 years. And I guarantee you, there's not one person in Rankin County who would ever build anything on that property and not take the consideration of our residents and what our architectural approval and standards would meet. She's not gonna go out there and build an ugly house that doesn't fit. There's big houses in the Pinnacle that wouldn't fit on, that would look, that you could take a house in the Pinnacle and you could put it on that corner and it would look out of place.
I understand. So
Because there's nothing there.
You're in support of it.
I am, but I just don't think that she should be not allowed to do something with land that she bought and that she owns because because people are upset that the trees are getting removed. And that's what it all boils down to. And just for clarification, back on the master plan that I found digging all this up, this was commercial use is what the original developers thought it should be, and I'd much rather 2 homes than a commercial building. Now, whether or not y'all changed those rules or zonings or whatever, and now that can't happen, but as far as the master plan goes, absolutely. And, you know, I just think that she should be able to do what she wants. I think it'll look nice. And as far as, there's the great debacle of the old section and the new section and what is over there across the street from the golf course, but really we all have the same set of covenances. We all have the same rules. There's just a section of Castlewoods that enforces their rules, and there's a section of Castlewoods that doesn't. But as far as the covenances with the county, we all have covenances. And I don't think that this building violates any of our covenances.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to clear one thing up, gentlemen. The fact that the county initiated zoning in '04 and applied R1B to this property, it's never been rezoned. That property will have to be used for residential purposes unless this board adopts
Changes it.
an ordinance that amends the zoning for that particular
Well, first
property.
it
This
takes
is going
somebody
to
to
be
come buy the
residential.
land that wants to use it for commercial use.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir.
Somebody has
First
to
it
buy
takes
it
somebody
first.
willing to buy the land to use it for
Yes, sir.
commercial use.
And,
Yes, sir.
all right, let's, and all of Rankin County is not in an HOA or under these. However, in my district, I have a lot of rural area with a lot of building going on. We do respect the atmosphere, and that's why our property values have skyrocketed. Because you know that I'm going to protect your interest when you put your savings into your home. There's no homeowners association, but for you to come out here and buy land and want to build something, that road wouldn't be there if these other people hadn't come before you. That water wouldn't be there. This fire protection. So we depend on all of that, but then say, no, I don't want to be like y'all. You know what I mean? It works when we work together. All right. Does anyone? Yes, ma'am. Let's.
Information. Okay, I'm Stacy Ferreri. Have lived
I know
in the
you.
Woodlands. Yes, I've lived in the Woodlands since 1996. 2 different homes. We love it. Mr. Cross, you made reference to the fact that it would be good to work with other individuals and certainly reach out to the HOA and try to, work together. I do want to give this point of information that the owner of the property is actually an officer in our HOA.
Now?
Now, it has been.
Well, good. That's
Yeah, she
good.
came before us last year.
Yeah, I
when they were
thought.
opposed
Yes.
to that.
I,
Hang on,
Wait.
she's speaking.
So I do think that most all of us think that it would be lovely to have properties developed there, and I know she would do a beautiful job with whatever home she did build. The issue, I think, with the majority of the neighborhood, that has spoken to me about this is the RV,
Thank you, ma'am.
plain and simple. But I did want you to be aware of that we would like to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I want to hear. We like to work together. All right. Does anybody else
Well-
have something that has not been addressed that you'd like to address? Okay.
Thank
We're
you all
not-
for coming.
Oh, one more. Right at the bell.
Boy, I mean, 1, 2,
Give us your name, address.
James Fitchie, 105 Woodlands Green Drive, in the Woodlands, obviously.
Gotcha. All right.
What would keep someone, okay, these are great plans and everything, grandiose plans, well-defined plans. What would keep somebody from putting manufactured housing there? It's not in the
It's zoned
HOA.
R1B. We don't allow manufactured housing in R1B.
So what she described to you was, it was zoned RE1B,
yeah.
which doesn't allow for mobile homes to go in there.
Right.
So it has to be a residential home to the description she gave you a second ago. Yeah, so you couldn't put a mobile home. or
Okay,
anything there.
next question.
Yes, sir.
It's already been danced around a little bit, but what is so hard about adding parcels that are contiguous to an HOA? Putting them in the HOA, and then you wouldn't have all this bickering back and forth.
Sure. Yeah.
I
and
mean, logic's gonna rear its ugly head.
Yeah,
here.
I'm with you, and that's a good point. And Mr. Slay can probably describe to us how you would adopt certain parcels or groups that would be in an HOA that wasn't originally bound by the developer. So,
Well, we need to start at a baseline here. First and foremost, Rankin County, the government, does not enforce restrictive covenants. Those are private agreements among private property owners, and it addresses use of property, regulations associated with how you use your property, what your property looks like, how compatible it is with surrounding properties. We don't enforce those. That is not our bag. We try not to allow things to happen that we know on the front end would be a violation of a set of restrictive covenants. It's not appropriate for my guys to say, yeah, you can go out there and do that, and then only find out later that there's a set of restrictive covenants that won't allow that. That creates confusion and problems. And so we like to refer to restrictive covenants before we entertain requests to do something with property. We just double check to make sure, is this going to violate a set of restrictive covenants that might apply to this property? This property doesn't have a set of restrictive covenants on it. It's not in the HOA. Right. So how would it be made a part of the HOA? Consult the bylaws of the entity. The Castlewood Owners Association has a set of bylaws, and it says in there, this is how you amend things. You go to that, you look at that, you read that, and you figure out what do we have to do in order to add properties in or remove properties from. You follow that set of rules. Probably you get an attorney involved to help you draft and craft things that are enforceable. Make sure you do it right. Make sure that everybody has signed. You include all of those details in accordance with what the bylaws of the organization say you have to do. That's how you do it.
yeah.
Okay.
It'd be two property owners to agree to join. That makes sense. HOA would agree to allow them in. The property owner would agree to say, hey, I want to be in it. So,
I don't know how many people though would willingly want to go pay HOA dues. They don't have to.
Correct, I understand.
Yeah.
But I
And
mean,
remember-
in
and
the
remember-
best interest of the neighborhood
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the property
absolutely.
values,
Well, and
this is a no-brainer.
that's I'm with you. Yeah.
I just want to make sure you know that.
Yes, sir.
I just also want y'all to know that there are a lot more concerned people
Sure.
out there than what showed up here.
I've heard from it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank y'all very much. With that, are we closing this?
There's nothing open, Steve.
Okay,
was
that'll
just
be
a review.
roll over to our,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
At some point, you will have a matter before you that
think
is
it's-
requesting official action.
Okay.
That hasn't happened yet.
all right. Well, we did get a lot of information today. Thank y'all very much, and we're gonna move on to our next section. You're very welcome to stay, but if you wanna leave, now's the time. Thank you very much. Nuisance property hearing. Thank you.
Mr. President, the next item under the Planning Commission agenda is our nuisance property considerations. Your first item under that section is Conrex, C-O-N-R-E-X, MLSMA 2019 through 01 Operating Company LLC. This is nuisance property at 117 Shenandoah Road North. This is a District 2 property. That hearing is open. I will ask that anyone here on behalf of Conrex plan to come forward. Renee will demonstrate with the photos.
All right, so we received a complaint on February 7th of this year in regard to the fence on this property. It's Lot 1 in Northwood subdivision. The mail was received, and Kathy has talked to them numerous times. They assured her that the fence would be repaired, replaced, or removed. So these pictures were taken on the 7th. And then these are the new pictures that were taken on the 26th. They have repaired a section of the fence. Still looks like some of it might be leaning on the back, but Kathy has talked to them.
Yeah, I'm good at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, with that, Daniel, would you
Make a motion to-
that no act, or just make a motion to close the public hearing?
Yep. That'll be my motion then.
All right, Daniel makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Well, Jay seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. The record will reflect that no action is taken on that matter, Mr. President. Item 2 under the nuisance property is Jerry, David, and Victoria Jane Yates nuisance property at 103 Evergreen Drive. This is District 4 property. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask that anyone on behalf of the Yates plan to come forward to address the board. Ms. Renee will demonstrate the photos.
All right, so we received a complaint March 20th about inoperable vehicles and storage containers on this property. We've worked this property several times through the years. These pictures were taken on March the 20th. Kathy has been contacted by the owner. She said that they had a generational family where they had lots of people there driving vehicles. These pictures were taken on the 26th. In Kathy's notes, she said some of the vehicles were moved to the backyard, and she was unable to get pictures of them. You can see the storage container there.
Is the house that I'm seeing, is that a house behind their property?
There is a house that you can see behind there. This is at Evergreen, and Stratford is behind
Okay,
their property.
I understand.
Is anyone here on behalf of the Yates? Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak on behalf of the property owners with respect to this consideration. At this time, it'd be appropriate for the board to decide how to treat this.
I really haven't looked at this, but I do see the pictures are pretty clear. And I assume this has been worked before.
Did they clean it up the first time?
It's the same type issue vehicles. I think in the past, they've had some 18-wheeler trailers there. And they've got that storage container.
Just move it up. I make a motion that we declare it nuisance.
Yes.
And let them work it out with the judge.
Yes, Steve, if I may, I would like for our staff to be able to.
Well, we didn't ask if anybody was here.
Yes, sir, I did.
Oh, okay,
No.
I'm sorry. Nobody, okay.
So,
sorry.
Steve, I would like for us to include in your motion that we are asking our staff to report to the Justice Court that we have concerns that there's commercial business activity taking place on this property as well, in addition to the fact that that we've got an abundance of vehicle storage. I think something's going on with respect to maybe we're working on vehicles.
Well, these pictures really don't, tell the whole story, I don't think, because the yard looks nice,
Yeah.
It does, but she said in the notes that they had moved some of the vehicles to the back, but she couldn't get pictures from the road.
Can the neighbors from Stratford see it?
No. Do you know, is it Stratford people complaining or
There's somebody in there.
Evergreen Estates?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll second Steve's motion.
All right. I made a motion to declare it. Brad seconds it. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Okay. Next item under, by the way, that public hearing is closed. Next item under nuisance property considerations is number 3, Angela Beckwith, nuisance property, 2871 Highway 471. This is District 2 property. I'll ask Ms. Beckwith or anyone on her behalf to plan to come forward and address the board. Renee will demonstrate with photos.
All right, so we've worked this property multiple times as well. We received a complaint March 23rd about rubbish and debris, inoperable vehicle, fence with missing boards, and grass. These pictures were taken on the 24th. And these are the new pictures that were taken on the 26th.
Yeah.
Is there power run to that trailer? Is there power hooked up to it?
No, sir. No one's living there.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for getting it cleaned up.
Amen.
Yeah.
Very much.
And I just want to be clear to these complaints today.
No, you are. You will be in
Okay.
just a minute, I
Okay.
believe. So it looks good. Thank you.
You
for
did a great
doing it.
job.
We appreciate you cleaning up. You good with it?
Well, let me tell, can I tell y'all what
Sure.
happened?
Sure.
Nobody's lived there in like 10 or 12 years.
Right.
Well, this girl wanted to have a yard sale there.
Mhm.
And I let her, trying to help her out. Well, she left all that mess, and she wouldn't come back and clean it up. Me and my daughter had to take it upon ourselves. We took away 3 truckloads.
I believe it.
That's what happened.
Thank you.
And then after that attention was brought to it, you know, I guess they saw every other little bitty thing, you
It's
know.
all good. Thank you for taking
What's your
care of it.
plans in the future for this
I don't have any
property?
plans right now.
You
Do
know
you
that,
own it?
Yes.
keep it maintained because that is some very valuable property.
Well, and everybody sees it.
I
you
know.
So
It was
just,
so
Yeah.
embarrassing.
it's all good. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Mr. President, it would be appropriate just to close that hearing, so I'll announce that it's closed now.
Yeah.
We
So I'll make a
will-
motion to whatever you want me to do.
Yeah, I think we'll just let the record reflect, Daniel, that no action was necessary because the property owner complied.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
That it?
I'll second.
I don't
I
know.
make motion to adjourn.
All right. If we need a motion, Daniel makes a motion that no action is taken. Brad or Jared or Jay seconded it.
Yeah.
And we are all in agreement? Yes. Pass. All
I
right.
make motion to adjourn.
Hey, well, I got one question for Renee.
All right.
Just put a note here. On, I think it's Bernice Lane, I don't know if they call it Lane or Road off Monterey. You remember we looked at that, it's got an old house that's falling down, has they got a post under it, part of it, trying to hold it up. Anyway, he was supposed to remove it. We gave him some time to do it, and he doesn't actually live here. It's one of his family deals. But he called and he wanted to get a little more time. He's gonna start moving it and tear it. I mean, I think if you go kick the post, it'll fall down. But, it still needs to be cleaned up. So, you remember that?
Yes.
Anyway, it's the same thing. So he hadn't done anything to it, so we need to bump him up a little bit, okay?
All right. Now then, you'll make a motion.
Yeah, I still make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Jay makes a motion to adjourn. Jared?
One
Doesn't
of,
matter.
it doesn't matter.
Seconds.
Flip
Okay.
one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right. Are we calling our board meeting now? We're not leaving.
Oh, crap, you're right. Man, I'm fixing to leave.
We're adjourning from that one.
I'm fixing to head out. Our board meeting's not bad.
Well, it's gonna be quick.
It's real quick one.
Really?
Yeah.
That was funny.
That didn't sound like, that sounded more like a statement than a question.
Yeah.
Message received, sir.
All right.
Mr. President, if we're prepared to move back into our work session
Yes.
agenda, the next item up would be under my section to set a public hearing for June the 5th at 9 a.m. for the Ronnie Williamson conditional use permit at
I'll make the motion.
1140 Highway 469 North.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second.
Jared makes a motion, Brad seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
This one will be appreciated by one supervisor in particular, acknowledgement of receipt of contract documents and authority for the board president to execute the certificate of sufficiency for the Neely Creek Flood Impacts Project, Highway 80, City of Pearl ARPA project.
Hey, can we just, before we take any action on that, can we do C first? Then that will let me know what I need to vote on. Huh?
I like that, Brad.
Motion approved.
It's a bad order. I'm gonna second it with that haircut Jay got. I knew you had something to
All
say
right.
with that haircut.
We got a motion, Jay makes motion, Daniel seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. President, item C, with just a little bit of information before we actually take the action item. The information that you need is this. This authorization to publish a request for proposals for professional services has nothing to do with asking for additional money, doesn't have anything to do with going to Washington DC, doesn't have anything to do with any of that. It has to do with the money we already have in hand, both the money that we've received from the federal government and from the state government associated with your I-20 connector loop. This is a RFP to secure the appropriate professional services so that we can begin moving forward with the money we have and get this project going. So I would need a motion to authorize publication of the RFP for the I-20 connector loop project.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Brad makes a motion, Jared seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
One abstain. Motion passes.
We're making progress.
All right,
Brad, you gonna make a motion to bring up that item B again?
Keith?
Good morning, gentlemen. I have a review of the agenda and consent agenda for next Monday, if you have any questions.
No, sir.
All right. And also, we need to discuss our mid-month meeting. MAS is the week of June 12th through the 16th.
Right.
So we're looking at scheduling the mid-month meeting on Monday, the following Monday, June 19th.
Y'all have a problem with that? or-
I'd rather do it the
Like I said,
19th.
Huh?
I'd rather do it the 19th if possible.
Let me look at my calendar. I don't even know what he has. I'm sorry.
Friday
I'm
when we
fixing
get
to
back?
leave to go.
No, it'd be the Monday
19th,
following the week of
Oh, yeah,
MAS.
yeah, that's better.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's our plan.
All right, yeah, all right.
So your last item, item 10, will recess until June 19th instead of June 16th. We'll make that change on the agenda for you. That's what you will do on Monday when you recess.
10-4.
Worked out better than that.
All right, so we adjourn or what?
Recess.
Yes, no, you're adjourned.
All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Jay to adjourn, second by Mr. Cross. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes.
So you got out.